Right. So, guys, now we are going to discuss on manufacturing account. Right. So, the last class we finished off 5 questions of manufacturing accounting. When compared to those 5 questions, what we have done previously, question number 8 is nothing much different. But there is one important point that we are going to learn in this question, which is tested in MCQ. So the only change between the 5 questions what we did earlier and the question what we are going to do now is going to be work in progress. Now in the 5 questions what we have done, if you have not forgotten over there, work in progress is something that will always be taken at the end of the question. But in this question, as you can see over here, right, so here they say stock as at 1st of April, so that's the opening stock. So they're telling work in progress is taken at something called the prime cost. Even the closing work in progress is also taken at something called the prime cost over here, right? So like I said over there, the only change in between the questions what you have done so far is how to deal with work in progress. Normally you take work in progress at the end. Today's question you will be taking work in progress somewhere in the middle of your format, that is somewhere before the prime cost. Okay, right? So number one, right, so question number 8, straightforward question. When you go to the requirement given over here, they have said you, right, prepare the manufacturing account. So normally you don't start a question this way, you always finish off with adjustments, right? So when you go to additional information, point number 1, it says over here accrued expenses rent is 2500. So in when you did the last chapter, that is sole trader, accrued is something that you always add. So they say over here the rent is accrued by 2500, right? So in your tute, right, search for the rent. As you can see, right, the rent over here is 37,500, right? So to this now we are going to add back, right, 2500, right, done, right? So adjustment number 2, prepaid expenses, insurance is 1500. So remember, prepaid is something that you always subtract from the question, right? So insurance is prepaid by 1500, right? So look at your tute, right? So here they say insurance is 9500, right? So next to it minus, all right, 1500, right, done. Next one, right? So here they have said insurance is to be apportioned 3/4 to the factory and 1/4 to the office, right? So quick recap on manufacturing accounts, right? So remember, manufacturing account is something that you do for your factory, not for your office, right? So as you can see over here, from the total insurance bill, right, so here you can see insurance is 9500, deducted 1500 means balance is 8000 rupees. From the 8000 rupees, 1/4 belongs to the office. So remember, the 1/4 need not to be calculated because the 1/4 goes to the income statement. Since you're doing only the manufacturing account, you should only take what is relevant to your factory. So as you can see over here, what is relevant to the factory is only going to be 3/4, right? So what you do to this answer, right, so you multiply that by 3 and you divide that by 4, right? So again, remember what you're going to do is, right, number 1, 9500 minus 1500 is 8000. On the 8000 we are only going to see 3/4, only the factories component. Office component can be ignored because we are only preparing, as you can see over here, the manufacturing account, right? Right, next one, lighting and rent. So there are two expenses over there, are to be apportioned 4/5 to the factory and 1/5 to the office. So again, remember, though they have given you two set of fractions, factory's fraction should only be calculated and marked. This 1/5 can be ignored because this is going to the income statement, right? So lighting, so as you can see over here, lighting is 25,000, right? So to this you multiply this by 4 and divide the whole thing by 5, you will get your factories component, right? Then last one, rent. Now already for rent we have added 2500, so 37,500 plus 2500 will now give you 40,000, right? For 40,000 what you are now going to do is, right, multiply this by 4 and divide the whole thing by 5, right? So that's also done. Again, 1/5 you don't have to see, you can always ignore, right? Last adjustment, depreciation on plant and machine is to be made at 10% per annum on cost, right? So number 1, plant and machine, as you can see, The plant and the machine over here is 91,000, right? So for this 91,000, now you see a 10% depreciation, right? So with that, all our adjustments are done. Now the only thing what you should do is just copy paste all these transactions with the adjusted values to the manufacturing account, right? So number one, let's start off with this one, right? So I have already put down the screen over here on the format, right? So number one, what we'll be needing is opening stock of raw material, right? So in your question, as you can see, the opening stock of raw material is now 34,000, right? So you go and mark that one, right? So over there it's 34,000, right? Then raw material purchase. So when I go through the question, the raw material purchase is now 18,000 rupees, right? So you go and mark that also. Right, and then the format is requiring for carriage inwards, right? So in your format you can also see a carriage inward over here, right? So you copy that also, right? So carriage inward is now going to be, right, 8,000, right? Done. Right, so that's all done. Right, so now we can calculate our cost of raw materials available for production. So remember, always this and this as well as a carriage inward should always be added. So you add and mark your answer over there. Right, so that is now going to be then 60,000 rupees, right? So that's done, right? Minus closing stock of raw materials. So when you look at your format over here, the closing stock of raw materials, as you can see, is 29,000, right? So you deduct that also, minus 29,000, right? That will give you cost of raw material consumed. So therefore the cost of raw material consumed is now going to be 31,000, right? Now we must look for direct wages. So when you look at your question paper over here, right, right, so they, okay, right, here we go, factory wages. So factory wages is direct wages in a given question, right? So you copy down that also, right? So as you can see, direct wages is now going to be 185,000, right? Other direct expenses. So when you go through your question over here completely, there is nothing called other direct expense, so that can be ignored, right? So now this is a learning point of your question. Now normally what you do is, right, you take cost of raw materials consumed. So last class I explained to you, cost of raw material consumed is direct material. When you add this answer with direct wages, and also if there are any other direct expenses, the answer what you get is now going to be prime cost. Right. Now remember, in this question, the only change, what like I explained for you at the start of this video, is that work in progress is something that is always taken at the end. But in this question, as you can see, clearly they have said for you, work in progress should take at prime cost. So what you should be doing is, right, in a given question like this, right, once you come to direct wages, you search for any other direct expense. If that is not there, below this now should be, right, here we go, opening work in progress, right, and minus closing work in progress, right? Okay, so again a quick summary. Work in progress is normally taken at the end, just before your last answer over here. But like this question, if they specifically tell that work in progress should now be taken at prime cost, just before you calculate your prime cost answer, you mark the two work in progress, opening work in progress and closing work in progress. So that is the only new thing in this question when compared to the earlier ones, right? So opening work in progress, as you can see over here, is 4,000, right? So you copy down that, right? So this one is going to be 0, right? So opening work in progress is positive 4,000, right? And now we need closing work in progress, right? So as you can see over here, closing work in progress is now 3,000, right? So you mark that also, right? So guys, remember, always closing figures are always negative, so you mark that over there, right? Right, so now we have cost of raw material consumed 31,000, direct wages 185. You adjust these two, now you will get your new prime cost answer. So that will now be Right, so prime cost in this question is 217,000, right? So you mark that as it is. Right, now it's a matter of just copying your factory overheads over here, right? So raw material was taken, work in progress was taken, raw material purchase taken, carriage inward, factory wages, right? Now lighting for 25,000, only see 4/5, and only that answer now should be marked under overheads. So that will now be, right, lighting will now be only 20,000, right? So because I made a mistake, prime cost should normally come in the second column, okay, right? So that's 217,000, right? Okay, right. And then, right, rent for 35,000, sorry, 37,500, you add back 2,500 to that answer. Now you see 4/5. Right, so that will then be 32,000, right? So you copy that over there. Rent is now 32,000, right? The next overhead, right, insurance from 9,500 subtract 1,500, that will give you 8,000. From 8,000 now you see 3/4, that will now be 6,000, right? So we have insurance, right, which will now be 6,000, right? And then the last one, we have plant and machine. Remember, you don't take the plant and machine completely. From the plant and machine only you have to take this 10% depreciation. So 10% on 91,000 will now be 9,100. That also should be marked as an overhead over here, right? So depreciation of machine will now be, right, 9,100, right? And in the question, the last two were the closing stocks. We have already taken closing stocks into consideration, so that is also done, right? Then guys, you add your overheads and take over here. Right, so that will now be 67,100. So you add these two and you mark it over here. Right, so therefore our total production cost is now going to be 284,100, right? Okay, so again a quick summary on what we did. Manufacturing accounts, the way you do manufacturing account will not change from the 5 questions that you did earlier. The only change comes is where work in progress is normally taken just before our last answer, but because the question specifically says work in progress at prime cost, this answer should now be taken before the prime cost calculation. So that is the only change what you have to know in this given question, right? So guys, please complete this question in your writing book. The same way now I attempted this question, I want you to now complete question number 9, right, as you can see on your video, right? So when you do question number 9, I need you to make some small changes, right? Number 1, there is a tool over here which says 6,400, right? I want you to adjust that to, right, tools consumed, okay? So the tool what is in your tute in the last sentence, please make that tools consumed, right? And please make your answer 4,000, okay, right? And then in other information, here you have a tool over there, right? What you do is please cancel that off completely. Also this adjustment B is not relevant, you deduct that also, right? Okay, so okay, sorry, I can't, right? So guys, question number 9, what are they asking you to do? They're asking you to do a simple manufacturing account, right? So some things to note in this question, right? What we added over here, tools consumed, I want you to go and mark this under factory overheads. Also, as you can see, specifically even this question says work in progress is done at prime cost. So like the last question, just before you get your prime cost answer, please include the 2 work in progress. finished goods. As you know, finished goods goes to the income statement, so therefore you don't have to mark this in the manufacturing. So please complete this question and show the answer to me. If you have any doubts over there, please drop me a message and you can clear your doubts. So once you finish off this question, I'll be posting another one video explaining the remaining questions in this tude, so that we can finish off and go to our next chapter over there. Right.